Lindsay, thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time to speaking to us. Really, we're sorry we could not be in Addis when you were here, but we were in touch with some people from the Mauritian embassy who had the kindness of organizing it, and we really appreciate. The ISS is probably Africa's biggest policy research organization, independent. We are headquartered in South Africa and have several offices across the continent. One of them is in Addis Ababa, where we work on issues related to the African Union. And we also produce a monthly report called the Peace and Security Council report. That is also the oldest publication of its kind, has been in existence for 13 years, has appeared monthly, religiously, since its creation. And we are the first, it is the first publication that is dedicated especially to the work of the Peace and Security Council report, but in general also of the work on the work of the African Union Commission. So for us, it's so important to talk to you. You are the very first candidate for the chairperson of the AU Commission whom we interviewed, and it's quite an honor to have this conversation with you.
Well, thank you very much for asking me to speak to you. I have followed the work that you do, and I know that you do it very professionally. And I hope that this interaction is also going to help promote the best interests of our continent.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. If you are ready, we can start. Thank you so much. Your Excellency, we'll start with a general question, normally about your inspiration. What drove you? What pushed you to enter the race for the position of the chairperson of the African Union Commission? And related to it, what is your vision for this role?
Well, as you know, this is the turn of East Africa to present a candidate for the post of the chairperson of the commission. And with the experience that I have in diplomacy, in government, in and out of government, as a professional, as a consultant to the UN, and my involvement also in Africa over the years, I thought that I have a contribution to make to improve the lot of the ordinary African on the continent. And I believe that the time has come to shake the house a bit and to see how we can really make the African Union relevant in the lives, the daily lives of every African living, whether in the camps, whether in the villages or in the towns or in the big cities. African Union must be relevant. My purpose in joining the race is to make the African Union Commission an organization that cares for the ordinary African, to narrow the distance between the AUC and the people, and to make the AUC appear as an institution that the ordinary African can look up to for finding an African solution to our African problems.
Thank you for that. And I think you touch on probably one of the most important weaknesses of the African Union Commission, namely, as you presented it, the distance, the gap between the African Union Commission and ordinary people out there. Some people often say, if you ask a grandmother in the village, what is the African Union? She would not know. But even worse, if you ask a youth anywhere, what is the African Union? We're not sure they will know what it is. But we were quite impressed with your CV, Your Excellency. You've done so many things, and exactly this is the kind of qualifications that would be suitable for an AU chairperson. What will be, with that background, what will be your top 3 priorities for the African Union Commission, and how do you plan to implement them, particularly those gaps you've identified?
Well, the first thing that I want to do, should I be elected the chairperson of the commission, is to bring governance. Forget good governance. I think the time has come to have governance at the AUC. And how I propose to do that is to bring in ISO standards. We need to have international norms. We need to have benchmarks. And we need to have measurable timelines and a result-oriented organization to see that whatever decisions are taken is, first of all, in the best interest of Africa, and secondly, that the decisions are there to be implemented. You know, I'm sure you know, that is a survey was carried out recently at the AUC, and it was found that not even 10% of all decisions that have been taken at the AUC have been implemented. Now, if you were in the private sector, you'd be out of the job already. And I believe that at the AUC, we have to make decisions that are taken relevant for the people for whom they are taken, and we should implement them. And if we can't implement them, we tell the people why we have not been able to implement.
No, thank you very much. And I would like to exactly follow up with another question regarding a general question regarding the issues that Africa is facing today. What, in your view, are the most pressing? And what role should the AU play in addressing them? What role can the AU play?
Well, when the AU Constitutive Act was launched, the whole purpose was to bring peace to Africa. And with peace, and stability come development and growth. We have not been able to. Africa has not been quiet. We keep talking about lots of slogans in the AUC. We talk about the silencing of the guns, make the Africa that we want. But what have we done? We still have unemployment, we have hunger, we have famine, we have displaced persons, we have people dying just for a few gallons of petrol because a truck just went off the road. Now, you see, when we look at it, when I spoke of distance earlier, I mean to say that every single displaced African is not a statistic. That is a human. And that human being needs to be cared for. And the AUC must care for them. And they must know that the AUC is caring for them. As at present, I don't see that. As said, and I have mentioned it also when I was in Addis, that if we were to conduct a poll, a survey, not many people will know what the AUC stands for, what it has done, how it has changed the lives of ordinary Africans. So as the time has come to make the AUC a living organism for the welfare of those persons who unfortunately are mere statistics today. The child who is dying in the camp is not a statistic. That child has a future, could have had a future, but that future is not there. And I hope that we will be able to bring to the AUC that spirit of involvement and engagement with the ordinary African so that we can leave a better Africa for them and for the generations that are yet to come.
Thank you very much. I'm now moved to my colleague, Andy. Yeah, Andy, please.
Thank you very much, Paul. Your Excellency, I think you touched on two very important issues. The issue about non-implementation, and you've also raised the issue about making the AU relevant. And I'm thinking that those are spot-on assessment. But given that the AU is 20 years old, the anniversary has been running for the entire year. We wanted to find out what your evaluation of the successes and failures are so far.
I'm sorry, I didn't get your question very well.
No, I wanted to ask that the AU is 20 years old, and they have been celebrating the anniversary. I just wanted to pick your brain on what your evaluation is in terms of the AU's achievements and then the AU's shortcomings for the past two decades.
I don't think there's much to celebrate in terms of peace and security, in terms of conflict on the continent, in terms of displaced persons in the continent, in terms of what's happening in the Horn of Africa, in Sudan. So, in fact, we should, instead of a celebration, we should be having a deep internal reflection on what went wrong, why did it go wrong, and what we can do now to set it right. This is what we must be doing. Unfortunately, I believe that I spoke about the distance between the AUC and the people, but there's also a distance between the AUC and the PRC. I was in Addis. I spoke to lots of ambassadors, most of them, and I got the impression very clearly that there is lack of communication between the PRC and the AUC. And if you cannot have that communication, you cannot have that consultation, you cannot have meetings with the people who matter, then not much can be done. So my first task will be to get all the institutions of the AU involved in the process. They cannot be at loggerheads. They must work together. And if they work together, we can see progress. And right now, my tour in Addis has given me the clear insight that that is not happening, and it has to happen.
Okay. Paul, you want to take it?
Continue.
Because I think Excellency addressed the second part of the question, which has to do with what he will do to address the shortcomings.
Well, if you have standards, ISO standards,
yes,
that is going to bring a major change. It's going to be important for everybody to know that whatever they do is being followed by norms, and there'll be consequences if the norms are not adhered. And I believe that it can be done. It is our organization. We are part of it, and we look up to it, and we cannot go on saying that we are going to find African solutions to African problems. And when there's a problem, we don't go to Addis, we go to other capitals in the world. Now, that is not finding African solutions to African problems. So let us bring it back. Let us make the AU relevant in the lives of people, but also for the member states. We must have, I believe, funding that makes the AUC autonomous. Right now, it is not autonomous. And unless we have that financial autonomy, the AUC will continue to be at the beck and call of others, when it should be at the beck and call of Africans.
Thank you very much.
Maybe let me follow up, Your Excellency, because I think you've exactly touched on the two major dimensions of the AUC, the AU functioning. AUC being one of the key organs, but there's the issue of the efficiency of the commission that you've touched upon, but then there's also the issue, very rightly so, of the relationship between the commission and the PRC. You seem to be very passionate about making the AU in general relevant for African people. But you are going to be elected, if so, by heads of state. Knowing the current, and I like the fact that you will be very happy with good enough governance, not even with governance, actually, not even good governance, but just governance. And I fully agree with that. We actually lack governance in many respects. Those who elect the AUC chairperson are the heads of state. Given the status of governance today, don't you think there's a gap here that AU doesn't make sense or not enough sense for the ordinary people, but it is elected by heads of state, at least the chairperson of the commission? How do you think this could be addressed in the reform, where we see more representation of people in the AU, in the workings of the AU?
Well, I believe that the heads of state are very important for the good functioning of the AU and the AUC. I believe that the heads of state in Africa generally are people who are very concerned about what's happening at the AU. And if a compelling case is made to them about how the AUC must function, I am positive that the heads of state will not stand in the way of making the AU what the founding fathers wanted it to be. I believe that the heads of state are very conscious of the need to make the AUC the most important institution in Africa, the one institution where everyone can look up to and go there with the confidence that something will be done to resolve the issues, to resolve the conflicts. So it will have to be a partnership, a real partnership between the AUC and the members and the heads of state. The heads of state the loop at all times about what is happening at the AUC. There should be no disconnect between the AUC and the heads of state. They will have to be always consulted, and they will need to know, and they will give the support necessary for the AUC to do what it has.
Excellent.
But if they are not in the loop, if they feel that things are not happening well, they will not be as ready to come to the rescue of the AUC as if they are in the know, then of course they will understand, and I'm sure they will understand. I have spoken a number of presidents, and I can see the fire of la flamme panafricanisme, and cette flamme est là. Il faut l'entretenir.
That's great. No, you're completely right. It is there, this passion for African heads of state, for the continental organization. Your Excellency, we've spoken a lot about internal issues of the AU, the relationship between the AUC and the PRC, the role of the Peace and Security Council. But now the AU is becoming an international actor. The AU is now member of a group, of a global governance group, the G20, which now should be called the G21. If you were elected, this is something you'll be running together with the elected rotational chair of the AU. So what would you propose to enhance Africa's influence and leverage the AU membership in this multilateral group?
Well, first of all, I think that we have to be very honest with ourselves. And when I say we have to be honest, it's a good thing that we are now part of the G20. We have a voice, but that voice has to resonate globally. But it must be a voice that resonates after that voice has done whatever it can to resolve its own problems. We cannot go to the global forum and discuss internal matters of Africa. We have to solve our own problems. So it has to be in parallel, resolving our own conflicts and then going and talking like an equal with the other members of the G20 right now. And maybe I'll be taken to task for what I'm going to say. But we cannot keep blaming others for the problems in Africa. We must try to take responsibility for what we have done, and what we can do to solve them. I believe that the reform of the UN Security Council is also very important. That has to come very far to get the Africa the justice that it needs after so many years of existence of the UN Charter. So there are lots of things happening on the global stage. But if we solve our own problems, if we get the guns to be silenced, and not postponing the date when the guns will be silenced, if we stop the groups that come to destabilize our countries, we cannot keep fighting, Africans cannot keep fighting Africans. Countries must be able to find a way to have a dialogue, to help each other, and to act constructively in the best interest of Africa. I personally believe that we should no longer have our young people crossing the desert, going to the Canary Islands or wherever, or crossing the Mediterranean, and many of them lose their lives. Let us give them the hope that they require in Africa, and let us get them to stay. We don't lack talent in Africa. We don't lack plans in Africa. We don't need roadmaps. We have all this. Implementation is key. So my purpose at the AUC will be implementation, 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 and giving hope. Let everybody work together as a team for Team Africa.
As a team for Team Africa. Members of the Team Africa are generally the AU and the regional economic communities. But their relationship has been source of tension and sometimes hampering the workings of Team Africa, as you name it. How do you intend to soften, to oil the machine of the cooperation between AU and the regional economic communities and the regional economic communities, and enhance actually these cooperation, making it more efficient, particularly because you are very passionate about the people, particularly when it comes to an issue like the continental free trade area. Because the best way to prevent conflict is at the end of the day to give jobs to the youth.
Well, let me address the issue of the REX first. My way of looking at things is that we have the AU as the apex body. The REX are regional. The AU is continental. There must be a link between the apex body and the REX. No, there should be no dominance of any one institution upon the other. They have to work together. Because ultimately, what is that they are aiming for? They're aiming for peace, stability, absence of conflict, dealing with terrorism, all sorts of those negative aspects that make life difficult for the ordinary African. Unfortunately, today, it seems that there is no proper consultation between the AU and the REX. This has to improve. They must work together. And we need to be able to give all the facilities and all the means for the REX to be able to act together with the EU. Because when the funds come, the funds, let's say, from our partners, the funds don't go to the REX. The funds go to the AUC. And it is the AUC that has to decide how to distribute the funds so that they are used in the best interest of Africa. We have a peace fund, $400 million. What are we doing with that peace? We must make use of it. The funds are there. I'm surprised that we have not been able to make good use of this of that huge amount of money. Let us use them. If they are used, they are used. Then we'll try to other means to replenish them. But right now, we have the peace fund. Let's use those funds to resolve some of the conflicts in Africa. And the other thing that I want to address also at the AUC is the issue of sanctions. The REX sometimes just immediately, whenever there is a unconstitutional change of government, impose sanctions. I believe that before that happens, we must be able to address the issues of what led to the unconstitutional change of government, what were the reasons, and have a dialogue before immediately proceeding to sanctions. Sanctions do not, and sanctions also create a situation where we invite non-African groups, non-African like Africa Corps, to come into the continent, and for the neighbors to feel threatened by the presence of mercenaries. We do not need mercenaries now. We must be able to solve, in the Ubuntu style, we must be able to solve our problems within ourselves, dialogue, talk to each other. Let's see where we can compromise. Sometimes compromises are hard, but that's why we have compromise. And I think we can do it. We must do it. There's no other option.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Is there any last point you would like to raise that we have not addressed?
Well, you mentioned the free trade, African free trade area. Well, even that, I believe that we must prioritize connectivity, infrastructure. And if we have good connectivity and infrastructure, we'll be able to make that a big success. And if we make it a success, it's going to be for the benefit of all Africans. But right now, we must be able to work very, very hard to improve connectivity and to get goods from one place to the other without the hassles that unfortunately many of the people on the ground are facing. So let us look at what's happening on the ground rather than what's happening.
Thank you very much. I like that. Let's deal with what's happening on the ground, where our feet are, and not what was happening up there. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Thanks a lot.
I hope we had a good interaction.
Absolutely, absolutely. It is even, looking at the time, it's even much longer than we anticipated. It means it was rich enough. So thanks so much. We will send you the transcript so you are comfortable with whatever we put out there.
But I don't think that whatever I have said is going to not be acceptable.
No, it will be absolutely acceptable, and we hope the campaign takes you back to Addis, and whenever you are back in Addis, we will definitely do everything to meet with you.
They're now organizing the interviews with the maybe you'll be there, and hope to see you then.
Hope to see you in any case. Hope to see you, and good luck for the rest of the campaign.
Nice talking to you.
Nice talking to you too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Excellent.